The story kicks off in a world where the dead center is just an endless snowy wasteland crawling with nightmare fuel. White serpents, massive gray bears, and even mutant rats with fins. But according to the Emperor who once survived that frozen hell, the real danger wasn't the beasts at all. It was the barbarians living out there. Cut to those very barbarians, strolling through the icy field like it's their turf, casually slicing monsters in half. Among them is Keetle, sticking out like a sore thumb. He clearly doesn't vibe with these thick-headed brutes and whines about wasting his time with them, calling them ignorant. A lady barbarian, way too simple-minded, drools while asking about whether ignorance is something you can eat. Keetle warns the crew not to eat a particular monster since it's poisonous, but these lunatics go ahead and chow it down anyway. Instead of panicking, they hype themselves up like it's some noble challenge. Of course, Balgreta ends up choking and gagging hard. The female barbarian rushes to him, tries to help, even smacks him in desperation as he collapses. Meanwhile, Keetle's head is miles away. He never wanted this barbarian lifestyle in the first place. He used to dream about living in a magical fantasy world. Hardcore otaku, obsessed with anime. He once got so pissed with reality that he quit his job and dipped. He traveled everywhere. Mount Everest, the Earth's core, the southernmost point of the globe, but none of it filled the void. Reality never matched fantasy, and he knew it. Every night, he prayed to be reborn in a magical world. Against all odds, one day, that wish actually came true. The scene flips again, this time to a noble's carriage and their squad of escorts trudging across the same wasteland. One mercenary whines about the freezing cold, but their blonde, jacked-up captain tells him to layer up or freeze to death. Another escort argues that crossing this place is straight-up stupid, no matter how big the payout is. The captain shuts him down, reminding them they signed up for this mission already. The guy fires back that nobody thought it'd be this brutal. Inside the carriage, the butler checks on the noblewoman, Mylina of the Akasha family. She insists she's fine while an escort outside curses the cold. The butler finds the comment disrespectful, but Mylina calms him down, saying the escorts volunteered and shouldn't be treated harshly. She even suggests letting them ride inside for a bit, but the old man refuses, warning her about the dangers in the wasteland. When she assumes he means monsters, he explains the legend of the Emperor. The tale goes that the Emperor once set out to conquer the White Wasteland with an army of soldiers and warriors, determined to claim the world. He stayed there for decades. When his empire finally crumbled, he returned, completely alone, clutching nothing but a stick. Everyone else had died. He raved about the wasteland being full of terrifying monsters, but swore the deadliest thing there wasn't them. It was the barbarians. The butler admits it's probably just a legend, though. Mylina pushes back, pointing out how so many of the beasts from that story actually exist out here, which makes it harder to dismiss. They mention that barbarians have never actually been sighted, so the legend stays unconfirmed, but still, some strange dude named Euron once spun endless tales about those people. Just then, the captain threw up his hand and told everyone to halt, saying he could see someone creeping up on them. He barely caught a glimpse, but he already had news, some good, some bad. Good news, the figure looked small. Bad news, he couldn't tell if it was a human or one of those nightmare barbarians straight out of the Emperor's legend. Out of nowhere, the so-called barbarian strolls up and, instead of snarling, casually says he was just wandering around after getting sick of the other barbarians. Name's Keetle, and he sure as hell wasn't shy. He greeted them, grinning, saying he hadn't expected to bump into outsiders and that it was actually kind of nice to see them. Then he asked if this was a merchant carriage and if they were the hired muscle guarding it. When the captain confirmed, the ashen barbarian smirked and suggested they turn back, mocking that he already knew they wouldn't listen anyway. Keetle then asked if someone was inside the carriage. Nobody dared to speak, all frozen stiff, and that's when he dropped the bomb. He wanted to be hired as a mercenary. The captain had to double-check, but Keetle just repeated himself, saying he'd help them cross this frozen wasteland of death. The captain could hardly believe it. One of those barbarians from legend, asking to join up, asking to be hired like some regular sales word. He asked if Keetle wasn't hostile, and the guy straight up bluffed that if he was, they'd already be 6 feet under. The captain quickly asked Mylina what she thought. She wanted to know how bad things would get if they actually fought him. The blonde captain admitted he didn't even want to think about that fight, so Mylina told him to accept the deal. The captain turned to Keetle and told him the noble inside the carriage had given the green light. Keetle's smile was so unnerving, it almost made the whole group piss themselves. He told them to relax and demanded an audience with whoever was in charge. The captain got tense, warning him he'd regret it if he tried anything. Some mercenaries argued they should strike first, but the captain shut them down, reminding them the employer had already given her consent. The butler overheard that and nearly lost it, but Keatle politely asked if he could come inside. He climbed in, sat next to the butler, making the poor guy squirm. Keatle told everyone to calm their asses, saying he had no intention of hurting them. Mylina herself looked uneasy, but still greeted him warmly. Keatle glanced around, saying it felt warm inside, and that it must be hell to keep it heated like this. Mylina explained that magic kept it warm, which got the otaku barbarian hyped. He told her straight up that this place was deadly and survival chances were slim, which was why he was offering protection. But then he dropped that he had one condition, and the mood instantly turned tense. Mylina kept her cool and asked what he wanted. The barbarian smirked, saying all he wanted was knowledge about the world beyond these snowfields. Mylina found it strange, but Keatle made it clear it wasn't a bad deal. Sweat slid down her face as she realized she had no choice, so she agreed. The butler looked pissed, but Keatle asked her name anyway, and she introduced herself as a noble from the house of Akasha. Keatle returned the gesture, thanking her for the chance to travel together. Back on Earth, he had always dreamed of living in a fantasy world. Then, somehow, that insane wish came true. He woke up as one of those dumbass Ashen barbarians stuck in an endless snowfield. He never figured out how it happened, and survival itself was hell. Frozen wastelands, endless waves of tough monsters. Every day, a fight to not die. To live, he pulled the other barbarians together, turned them into a clan, and took the lead. Years flew by. Escape plans failed one after another. Then, out of nowhere, a system panel appeared, promising freedom if he cleared certain quests. From the start, it felt like some invisible force was chaining him to this frozen nightmare, and hope had almost dried up. Outsiders did appear now, and then, and from them, he learned that the outside world really was full of magic and fantasy, just like he had always imagined. That revelation lit a fire under him, and he doubled down, completing quests one by one, desperate to escape the snowfield. He also realized how insanely valuable outside knowledge was, which is why he demanded it from Mylina in exchange for their safety. Up until now, everyone he met either freaked out or pulled a weapon the second they saw him, treating him like a monster. So for him, just having a normal conversation with an actual human felt like a relief. The barbarians he ruled over were brain-dead meatheads, and talking to a real person for once actually eased his mind. Out of nowhere, Keatle just throws the lady a curveball, asking if they're hauling weapons. Mylina shoots him a look and asks what made him think that, and he shrugs, saying he heard the sharp clanging of metal from the wagon. Total dead giveaway. Then he presses her about whether there's a war going down beyond these frozen wastelands. Mylina's face darkens as she admits the Empire and the Kingdom are already locked in battle. The Empire's massive and hungry to swallow the Kingdom whole, but so far, the Kingdom's still standing strong. She credits that to the Sword Master and the hero holding the borders. Keatle, curious as hell, asks what kind of powers those people pack, and Mylina is surprised he's clueless about mysteries. When the barbarian tells her he's never stepped out of these snowfields, she sighs and says her knowledge is limited too. But what she does know is that mystery is legit power in this world, and only a handful can even tap into it. Depending on how far someone can go, they're ranked across 5 levels. Lowest rank are those who can barely sense mystery, then the ones who can actually use it, and then the beasts who can fully manifest it in a mana or aura. People at that level are considered first-rate, spirit summoners, mages, knights. Above them are ranks normal humans can't even wrap their heads around. They're called transcendants, people who can bend mystery with nothing but raw willpower. The Sword Master is believed to be on that insane level. And then there's the hero, rumored to have powers so busted he can literally influence the world itself. Mylina adds that even third-rate scrubs, people who can barely sense mystery, are still scary strong compared to regular folk. That's when the Ashen Barbarian jumps in, fired up about meeting such people. Keatle doesn't even know how long he's been trapped in this cursed snow coffin, but now he's more desperate than ever to break out. Staring at his reflection in the mirror, he quietly vows that no matter what it takes, he's getting the hell out. Mylina suddenly asks if he's really a barbarian. Keatle confirms it, half wondering if they already know who he is. The lady brings up an old legend and starts rambling about the Emperor, but Keetle cuts her off with a smirk, saying he actually remembers the guy visiting the fields once and thought he was just some crazy bastard back then. Mylina can't process what he means, so he lays it down straight. Her legend might actually be true. Then he circles back to what's been bugging him, asking why they picked this sketchy route when they're dragging a wagon full of weapons. Mylina's face turns gloomy as she admits they're buried under a mountain of debt. Her family's been in the trade game for generations, but jealous rivals sabotage their deals, leaving them flat-out bankrupt. This trip is their last desperate shot at saving the family name. Keetle, using every ounce of brain power he's got, pieces it together and guesses she's planning to sell the weapons to the kingdom. When Mylina asks how he figured that out, Keetle explains that if the Empire really is pushing forward like she said, then it's the kingdom that's bleeding for weapons. That makes them willing to pay any price to stock up, which makes this dangerous-ass route worth it. He even points out that since she skipped the safer road, it means the two nations must be sharing a border. Mylina just stares at him, disbelief all over her face. Everything she'd heard about barbarians painted them as dumb, wild savages with zero sense of logic. But now, watching this so-called barbarian connect dots sharper than most scholars, she's left wondering if he's even a real barbarian at all. Out of nowhere, the carriage jerks hard, screeching to a stop, followed by a nasty crash outside. That sound alone was enough to tell them they had company. They jumped out, weapons ready, only to face a huge sewer freak with blood-red eyes staring them down. Everyone froze, scared shitless, and the blonde captain barely managed to stutter out that it was a black slime. Keetle tilted his head, asking if it was really a black slime, and Mylina confirmed, saying she had read about it in the old records. When he asked about those records, she explained how countless people once tried to conquer this frozen hellscape, and most of them didn't make it back alive. The survivors wrote down the names of the monsters, and the black slime was definitely one of them. Mylina asked Keetle if he knew the beast, and the guy just grinned, saying they were chewy and surprisingly tasty. She gave him a disgusted look, asking if he seriously treated that thing as food. He fired back that if she wanted to eat it, she could go catch it herself, which she instantly refused. As if it had been waiting for their chat to wrap up, the monster slithered closer. Panic spread quick, the terrified lady shouting Keetle's name, but he didn't even blink. With a blank face, he reminded them of their deal, that he'd protect their lives, but wouldn't lift a finger unless they were in actual danger. The lady, pale and trembling, asked what the hell he meant by that, and he smirked, saying they could handle a beast like this easily, and he just wanted to see what the outsiders were capable of. The slime rushed straight at the guards. Captain Blondie barked orders to put up shields, and one merc raises quick, but the damn thing plowed through, sending the poor bastard flying. Then Ponytail Dude leapt at the slime, only to get smashed back hard, weapon knocked loose, blood dripping from his mouth. The captain yelled for them to scatter, reminding them the slime could only move in one direction, so they had to work in sync. That's when Green Cloak charged midair, landing a solid hit, then a second swing that actually carved into the thing, leaving serious damage. The captain saw his opening, slashed it again, and shouted for them to find the core, since normal hits were doing jack. After a flurry of strikes, they finally spotted the core and smashed it to pieces, the slime collapsing and flowing away like muck. At first they were stunned, then the realization hit. They'd actually won. Cheers broke out, their first win in this icy wasteland. Mylina's face lit up with relief. But before they could even catch their breath, a massive white bear stormed up to the carriage. Someone yelled to aim for its neck, and together they all struck at once, dropping the beast quick. One of them laughed, saying maybe all the scary tales of this land were just bullshit made up by madmen. The captain cut that talk with a sharp tone, warning them not to get sloppy. They still had more than half the journey left. Green Hood, curious and cocky, questioned Keetle's strength, saying all they knew were Emperor stories and legends. To him, Keetle was just coasting off hype, and they should at least see what he could do. All the guards gathered near her carriage, asking if they could speak. Green Hood took the lead, saying confidently that they were risking their necks for her quest, basically forced to push through. Mylina stepped out, thanking them for their loyalty and hard work, reminding them they had agreed to escort her across this cursed land when no one else would even dare. But Green had cut her off again, saying Keetle didn't deserve that VIP treatment since he hadn't lifted a finger in a fight since joining. Mylina frowned, saying she understood what kind of test they were asking for. Her eyes shifted to the captain, who denied having any say in it. Ketel steps out of the carriage, this massive, ripped unit of muscle, and casually drops that they're about to get another visitor. Right then, a dark shadow with glowing eyes creeps up behind them, its voice echoing like a nightmare, bragging that it's about to feast on some weak-ass mortals. The carriers turn, and boom, a huge snake with blazing red eyes shows its fangs, long slimy tongue dangling out, scaring the absolute shit out of them. The serpent hisses that they can struggle all they want. It'll just make the meal taste better. Mylina instantly clamps her hands over her ears in panic, while the mercenaries keep their eyes shut tight, frozen like statues. Ketel doesn't flinch. He walks straight up to the beast, body glowing with this badass purple aura, and tells the snake to back the hell off. These people are under his protection now. The oversized white snake starts squirming the second it lays eyes on Ketel. It demands to know why he's here, spouting those dumb snowfield rules about trespassing in its territory. Ketel just shrugs that shit off, telling it to quit being so uptight. The snake lets out a dramatic roar, trying to sound scary, and snaps that Ketel has no right to talk to it like that. But Ketel is already done with the back and forth. He charges in with zero hesitation and smashes a punch into the beast, like he's teaching it some manners. The impact is so brutal it shakes the entire damn ground, leaving everyone around frozen in shock. Mylina screams out, asking if Lord Ketel is fine, and he replies cool, as ever that he'll wrap this up quick. He leaps in again, bursting with this unnatural level of power, and slams the cocky serpent into the ground with one savage strike. Just like that, fight's over. A while later, Ketel is chilling inside the carriage, calm as ice, while everyone else is outside trembling, begging for forgiveness. The barbarian just turns his head away, saying it's natural to be suspicious of strangers at first. But now the tables are flipped, and even the butler has to trudge out in the snow. With things settled, Ketel leans back and asks Mylina why the hell she came all this way alone, knowing the dangers. She finally spills. She's the first daughter of Lady Bellica, one of Lord Akasha's concubines. Her mom had been married into the family just to plug a political hole, then tossed aside once she'd done her job. Neither of them has ever been treated as family. They're basically seen as disposable servants. She hadn't planned to rant, but once she started, it all came pouring out. She admits she took this brutal journey to carve out her own name, to make an impact. Ketel smirks, calling her clever, ambitious, and yeah, just a little greedy too. Before it can go deeper, the mercenary captain yells out that they've reached the destination and that Greenland lies ahead. Everyone starts preparing to split up, and Mylina thanks Ketel sincerely. He asks how she plans on heading back, and she says she'll move through the Empire when the time comes. Before leaving, she brings up that thing he said earlier in the carriage about her being smart. He repeats it instantly, no hesitation. Then he straight up lays out her entire game plan, connecting every single that she wants to climb the family ladder and eventually reach the very top. She doesn't deny it, just nods in silence. To Ketel, this whole thing feels familiar as hell. A child born to a concubine, desperate to rise above and be recognized as part of the main bloodline. He's seen this story 1,000 times, even back in his otaku days. Mylina starts realizing Ketel isn't just some brute. He's sharp as hell, way more than she expected. She wonders if maybe one day she could actually control that insane strength of his. She even tells him to come find her after he leaves the snowfields, offering him a place by her side. Ketel shoots her down, saying he's still got unfinished business. So she hands him a pendant, telling him to visit her if he ever finds himself outside this frozen wasteland. Ketel accepts it with a calm smile, calling it a gift and not pressing for details. The butler gives a respectful farewell, and with that, they all split ways, each hoping fate throws them together again down the road.